Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to Sunday Night Positivity Night at Sree's daily global COVID-19 conversation. My name is Sree Sreenivasan, and I'm the Marshall Loeb Visiting Professor of Digital Innovation at Stony Brook University and a social and digital consultant. I am honored to convene this global conversation every day and to have you part of this journey. Please go into Facebook, go into Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and hit share right now. We want as many people around the world to join us. Please tag your friends. Please share. There'll be somebody who would benefit from a positive conversation. That's what we do on Sunday nights. And we're going to get comments in. Tell us where you're watching from. Here's Steve Taylor watching from Philadelphia. He beat Jonathan Borstein here, who comes from the East Village and is watching. Geeta is watching from Memphis. So nice to have you here. Tell us where you're watching from. Tell us how you're feeling. Tell us how your Sunday is going. Some of you are watching on Monday morning. It's already Monday in Asia, and we have people watching there as well. So please hit share. Please tag as many people as you can. They're going to benefit from this fabulous conversation. We have just a great, great speaker here today, and you're going to enjoy learning from him as I learn from him. Our guest is Tal Ben-Shahar, and he has so much to share with us. We are going to show you a little bit of his background. And what we do on Sunday nights is we meet positive, purposeful people to prep us for the week. This time, meet the professor who taught two of the largest classes in Harvard history and teaches folks how to be happy, and does that through the Happiness Studies Academy. He's the co-founder and he's an author. He's just a terrific person and personality, and you're going to love meeting him. So before we do that, we have to pay some bills, and we are excited to tell you that we have a new sponsor here on our show. This is from the Girl Scouts of Greater New York. Help us donate 100,000 boxes of cookies to healthcare workers. This is just a great opportunity. Please go to this URL, bit.ly/gscookies1, bit.ly/gscookies1, and you will be able to make a donation to the Girl Scouts of New York, the Girl Scouts of Greater New York. I like Greater Girl Scouts of New York, and it'll be a chance for you to donate. Here's what's happening. This year, the local Girl Scout Council serving New York City has selected the NYC Health and Hospital as its gift of caring partner, ensuring all donated cookies are sent to healthcare workers on the front lines of the COVID-19 crisis. The dedicated, compassionate, brave NYC Health and Hospital's workforce of more than 42,000 employees are needed now more than ever. By donating Girl Scout cookies, you can show your gratitude and literally put a smile on the face of healthcare workers in New York City who will see their favorite Girl Scout cookie in their hospital's break room and know that they were purchased just for them by people who care. Our goal is 100,000 boxes of Girl Scout cookies, and we've already done 63,000. We need the rest. To send a special thank you to heroic healthcare workers in New York City, please go to bit.ly/gscookies1, bit.ly/gscookies1. We'll put this into the comments as well so that you can see it, but very easy to make a donation, bit.ly/gscookies1. And this ad is paid for by an anonymous third-party donor. And that's the beauty of this, that the money that you donate is going straight to the Girl Scouts so that they can help these healthcare workers. And you can also support this show by making a donation, because a third-party donor, an anonymous third-party donor, has made this donation. We are so grateful. As you can see, our ad rates are very inexpensive. So you may have something you want to promote, maybe a book, maybe a small business, or you want to make a donation in the name of someone else, or you want to do a birthday greeting, or maybe make a wedding proposal. Anything you like, talk to me, Sree at sree.net, SREE at SREE.net. That way we can pay producers to make our show even better. And I'm so grateful to the producers who work on this show, Vandana Menon, Vandana_Menon, and Rose Horowitz 31. They're both tweeting. And please do follow them. Please go online right now and hit share so your friends and family can see the great content we're sharing with you tonight. Let's bring on Tal, and then we will go on a journey to see who's tuning in from around the world. This is Sunday night positivity night on my Sree COVID-19 call. The hashtag is Sree COVID-19 call. And you can find me on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube. And make sure you hit share right now so everyone can join us. And with that, let me bring Tal on board. Hi, Tal.
Hi, Sree. Good to be here. How are you?
I'm great and so honored that you would spend Sunday evening with us. We know we have a lot of ground to cover, and I'm trying to be as positive as I can, and that's why I am wearing my positivity shirt and trying to be as upbeat as I can. But it's not easy, is it, given everything that's going on?
Yeah, it's not easy. And I think what people are experiencing, and I see it in my students, clients, family, and myself, is our extreme emotions and complex emotions. So in terms of extreme emotions, people are very anxious, whether it's anxious for their loved ones, for themselves, anxiety for our economic well-being and security. So there's a lot of anxiety, more so than usual. At the same time, people are also experiencing other emotions, such as gratitude, for perhaps being healthy or for spending time with their family. However, with that gratitude, there is also guilt. How can I feel grateful, or even positive when so many people are struggling? So we're experiencing the full range of human emotions to the extreme in a most complex way.
And we'll need your help to break that down, Tal. Thank you so much. Let's see if you've been to some of the places that I'm going to name here. Our guests who are watching, tell us any memories you have, any meals you've eaten there, if you've even visited there. But let's start with Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Yeah, I spent a lot of time. UPenn is the is where positive psychology was founded. So I spend a lot of time there, and I eat what everyone else eats there. Those big tasty subs.
Yes, steaks, Philly cheesesteaks. How about the East Village?
Yeah, well, I'm right now in New Jersey, but lived in New York City for a few years. Memphis, no.
Never been. Okay, Arlene is in Inwood, New York, in Manhattan. In the upper tip of Manhattan. And Drew is watching from Silicon Valley.
Great. This is. I think of all these places where I visit, and I can't imagine them without people on the streets, and the restaurants being empty. But it's still a beautiful place.
Yeah, it's really, really hard to think of it. Our friend Renee is watching from New York City. Pradnya says, I totally need some positivity today. So that's great. You're at the right place. Paula is watching from Tallahassee, Florida. And I don't know if you've been to Tallahassee, but of course you've been to Florida. And Paula is a producer on my morning show at 8:30 every Sunday. We talk and read about the New York Times. And we had Judge Rosemary Aquilina, who put away the doctor who was involved in the USA Gymnastics sex abuse scandal. And it was just an incredible conversation, very moving. Everybody can find this. If they go after this show, they go in and look at my Facebook or my YouTube. Please go to my YouTube and subscribe. It's YouTube Sreenet, and you will be able to know when we do all of these conversations. We also had a terrific doctor join us, Albert Johari, who shared and answered questions. Tim is watching from Pennsylvania. And Steve says, I'll be watching from my smart bike trainer where I'm currently climbing a virtual mountain. And look at Arlene is tagged Ruth Sternberg. That's great. And Pradnya is cheering for the Girl Scouts. That's awesome. Tim was my very first sponsor. And he says, Sree sponsorships work. He's made such an engaging community and global reach. Wait, you'll accept wedding proposals? Does Rupa? No, I didn't mean wedding proposals for me. If you want to do one for your girlfriend, boyfriend, etc. I'm watching from the Seattle area. I've been a fan of Tal Ben-Shahar's work in happiness, work and studies for a long time. How about that? Any memories of Seattle you want to share?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay.
But looking forward to creating future memories.
Okay, and Tim says he's ready for a dose of positivity. Hello from New Jersey. And Manoj is saying hi to one of our other guests. And Sudha says hi from Hastings on Hudson. So first, let me just ask you, Tal, How are you? Where are you? And how's your family? How's everybody doing?
Yeah, so, doing okay on aggregate, all things consider. But, so psychology studies aggregate averages, but averages don't always give you the full picture. So on average, I'm doing okay. But 2 days ago, I had a horrible day. Yesterday was a pretty good day, and, roller coaster, extreme emotions, and trying to, as best as possible, ride those ups and downs. I was thinking about it today. How is it different for me today than it would have been had I gone through the COVID-19, 25, 30 years ago, when I started off on my journey in positive psychology, in the science of happiness. And I think the main difference is not that I don't experience these emotions today. I experience them as I experienced them, 30 years ago. The difference is that today I don't fight them, meaning I don't worry about it too much if I feel worried, or I'm not anxious over feeling anxious. I feel anxious, I feel worried, and that's where it stays. In Buddhism, and today increasingly more in psychology, we talk about two levels of pain, two levels of suffering. The first level is the natural level. We all go through it. We all experience, sadness, anxiety, envy, fear, whatever it is. The second level, it occurs when I reject the first level. In other words, if I would say to myself, okay, Tal, you're a happiness expert. You're not supposed to feel anxiety. I feel even worse. Or I shouldn't feel weak. I'm a parent. I should be strong for my children. That's another level of pain and suffering. Whereas if I simply accept the emotions, allow them to flow through me, give myself, what I've come to call the permission to be human, then these emotions don't overstay their welcome. In other words, it's not that we shouldn't take our emotions seriously. We should, because it is serious. At the same time, we shouldn't make more of them than they already are. Permission to be human.
I love that. Permission to be human. That sounds like something we could all use, Tal. Thank you so much. We've got lots of questions coming in, but let's take us on a journey of your story. Where were you born? What did you study? Where did you study? Did you always know what you were going to do? Because I presume, positive psychology and all of this wasn't something that a lot of 10-year-olds say, that's what I want to be.
No, it's not. And I became interested in happiness because of my own unhappiness. So I was born and raised in Israel. My defining experience, childhood experience, my most important and biggest passion was playing squash. And at the age of 17, I turned professional, and my dream was to become the world champion. And I thought that I would finally be happy when I become the champion. And I didn't become the world champion, but I ended up doing well. And but realized that all the tournament wins and the successes only led to a short-term happiness, not to a long-term happiness. And then I got injured and went to study, and I thought that, okay, so if I get into Harvard, then I'll finally be happy. And I wasn't. I was happy when I got in, but that lasted a week or two. And then I remember, and I studied computer science. I'd always been, good at math and the sciences in general. So I studied computer science, but then I found myself in my second year of Harvard doing very well academically, doing very well in athletics, playing squash, doing quite well socially, and being very unhappy. And it didn't make sense to me, because when I looked at my life from the outside, things looked great. I checked the boxes. And yet, from the inside, it didn't feel good. And I remember waking up one very cold Boston morning. It was around February, my second semester of my sophomore year, going to my academic advisor and telling her that I'm switching majors. And she said, "What to?" And I said, "Well, I'm leaving computer science and moving over to philosophy and psychology." And she said, why? And I said, because I have two questions. The first question is, why aren't I happy? Second question, how can I become happier? And it's with these two questions that I then went on to get my undergraduate degree in philosophy and psychology, then went to read education in the other Cambridge across the Atlantic, and then back to Harvard for my PhD, all the time focusing on how can I help myself, individuals, couples, organizations, and ultimately nations increase their levels of well-being. And that's what I've been doing for the past 30 years. Happily doing it.
That's an incredible story, Tal. Thank you for sharing that. I know this is, since you just mentioned education, I'm thinking of my own kids who are in 11th grade right now, and they had their SATs canceled, but at least they're not seniors in high school or college. What is your message to seniors who are missing prom, seniors who are missing that final semester, that the chance to bond and say goodbye to their friends? There are people watching who have children like that, and they are children themselves who are watching. What is your message to them?
Yeah, first of all, the message is it's hard. It's difficult. You know, positive psychology is not about being positive all the time. The science of happiness is not about, you know, don't worry, be happy, and just, you know, plaster a smile on your face. The first rule, or the foundation of happiness is learn to face reality. And that very often means the hardships and difficulties. So it is difficult, it's unpleasant, it's not fun. Having said that, the question is, what can you do to make it better? Not to make it great, but to make it better. And the answer is, you know, do what you can with social media, you know, do what you can in terms of cultivating your relationships online. Say to yourself that once this is over, you'll celebrate with your, you know, BFFs, your best friends, and your family. So yes, it will not be a conventional graduation or prom or whatever it is that you were so looking forward to. And yet you could still experience positive experiences. You know, many people talk about or say things happen for the best. I actually don't believe that. I don't think things always happen for the best. However, I do know that some people are able to make the best of things that happen. So this COVID-19 happened. It's not for the best, certainly not for most people, but it happened. And the question is, given this reality, what can we do to make it better? And we still do have choices in our life. What are they, and how can we choose wisely?
Thank you, Tal. We have some great comments coming here from folks. Let me just show a couple of them to you. Ashok says, happy to be engaged here. Thank you, Ashok, for being here. Please tag your friends. Folks, there are so many people in our lives who would benefit from this conversation. Please tag and please share with them. And I love this comment from my friend Jillian, who says, hey there, I always wanted to take Ben-Shahar's class, but when I was at Harvard, but never fit in my schedule. Thanks for putting this together. I love that, and that's great. And Jillian is a very positive, upbeat person and someone who has inspired me. She's an entrepreneur, and she built an incredible startup called Hitlist. And I want to have her on the show in the future to share her wisdom as she navigates the world. And Jeanette says that's an inspirational 30-year life and career journey. You look very young. So, and Jillian says, thanks. People are also tagging their friends, and Carla Baranakis, who was the copy chief of the New York Times and a great friend of the show, has tagged Corey Cohen, who is the dog whisperer. And he was on this show a couple of weeks ago and was helping us cheer up and be positive. So
I must tell you, Sree, one of the things I'm very grateful for is having our dogs in social isolation. And you know, two of my students over the years have done the research on pets and well-being, and no big surprise, showing that it has a very positive impact on our well-being. And I always feel it. I feel it even more in these times.
Yeah, thank you.
They're always smiling, the dogs. Always wagging their tail.
Can you tell us the name of the student so we could look up that research if somebody would like to do that? You remember?
Yes, I do remember. I remember one of them. One is Seagull Zilkha, Zilkha.
Zilkha. Sorry, Zil.
Chl.
Got it. Yeah, got it.
Chal. Sorry.
Sorry. One more time.
Zilcha.
Okay,
Zilkha.
got it.
Zilkha.
Yeah, got it. We'll find that. We have lots of people who are online who will find that. Oh yes, I found it. Zilcha Mano, right? Seagull Zilcha Mano. I found it. That's there's an amazing tool called Twitter.
Not married when she was my student, but that's her. Yes.
Yeah. So let's actually show people that, and that's also the bond between students and professors after all these years. Here's pets as safe havens and secure bases. The moderating role of pet attachment orientations.
Lovely.
In Science, the Journal of Research in Personality. So,
that's the other thing I'm grateful for. Technology. Isn't that amazing? I mean, A, the fact that we're talking now and we have people from all over, and B, the fact that we can just, I remember when I did research as an undergrad, I basically lived underground for 8 months.
Yep.
Whereas, by the time I was doing my PhD, most of it was online. Today, everything is online.
Right. Muriel is watching from Kansas City and is joining now. Thank you so much, Muriel, for being here. We love seeing these comments. Please tag us. Tell us how you're feeling. I love this dog research. I'm going to bookmark that so that we can see that later. But I want to just take people on a journey of the Happiness Studies Academy. It's, one of the things I always tell my students is make your own luck. Pick the things that you want to do and then do them really well. I have a friend who is a film critic and he gets paid to watch movies, and people say, oh, that's so lucky. And there's nothing lucky about it. He spent 30 years building his knowledge and skills in film criticism and in-depth research. And now, expertise is valued in that way. So talk a little bit about how you came to found the Happiness Studies Academy.
Yeah, so this part of my journey started 5 years ago, almost exactly 5 years ago, when I was on a flight. Do you remember those days? Sree, when we were on flight? Yeah, prehistory, it seems. So I was on a flight, and a question suddenly came to me. It was over the Atlantic somewhere. And the question was, how is it that there is a field of study for psychology, my field, or for history or biology, geography, journalism, medicine, you name it, but there is no field of study for happiness? Yes, that there is positive psychology, but that's just the psychology of happiness. What about what philosophers have to say about happiness, or theologians, or historians, or economists? Why isn't there a field, or rather an interdisciplinary field of study that brings together all that very smart people throughout history had to say about living the good life? And I resolved on that flight to help create a field of happiness studies. And this is what I've been doing for the past 5 years, and less intentionally for many years before that, but certainly over the last 5 years. And then 2 years into it, 3 years ago, I founded the Happiness Studies Academy. And a year and a half ago, we launched our first certificate program in happiness studies, which is a year-long certificate program that looks at the theory of happiness studies, look even more importantly at what can we do based on rigorous research and rigorous thinking. What can we do to increase levels of well-being in individuals, relationships, organizations, and nations? And we have students from all over the world. We actually did a count, and we are right now at 57 different countries, and we're growing. And our goal is to bring happiness to life, introduce the science of happiness to as many people as possible.
What has the reaction been when you talk first about this? Some people must be skeptical, right? When they hear that and they say, tell us more. How do you convince them of what this is exactly?
Yeah, so the first thing to do, and that's very important, is to distinguish between self-help as it's traditionally perceived and the science of happiness. You see, in the self-help movement, there is a great deal of charisma. You know, there's a lot of impact, but much of it, not all of it, but by any stretch, but much of it is not based on research. Whereas with the science of happiness, it's all based on rigorous academic research. When it comes to philosophy, it's based on the leading thinkers, on the great books and the great ideas from west, east, north, south, and it's bringing all these to bear. What very smart people had to say and have to say about the good life. So it's very much about research. The other thing that we emphasize in the course, in the program, it's not just research, it's also about me search. Meaning it's not just about looking what other people did or looking at large groups and averaging it all out. It's also about looking inside. And when we look inside, we gain insights, obviously, concerning our life, also concerning other people's lives. Abraham Maslow, one of my role models, once wrote, "He who has looked into the depth of his own mind has looked into the depth of all minds." Because what we're doing when we look deeply inside, when we engage in me search, we look to the universal within ourselves. Again, of course, not ignoring interpersonal differences, cultural differences that are real. So engaging in me search can help us try things out, experiment. I'm a big fan of biographies. And one of my favorite biographies is Gandhi's. And Gandhi's biography, the subtitle there is "My Experiments with Truth." Not my finding truth, not my having attained truth and teaching it to you. It's my experiments with truth. And that's what our course is very much about, experimenting with truths.
And so people can tell us what happens in this course. They can take it. It starts in June, and you have the certificate they get, and there's a discount if you sign up early, and you can. So this is to become a certified happiness trainer. Is that correct?
Yes. So we're very much about paying it forward, or rather serving it forward, taking these ideas and sharing them with whether it's with your colleagues at work, whether it's with your family. So we have students who are consultants, who are coaches, who are therapists. We have students who are stay-at-home parents. And we have students who are students at a university. We have the whole range. Our youngest is 17. Our oldest is 93. So
wow,
it really is. People go on a journey, and the journey doesn't end at the end of the year. It's a lifelong journey that they embark on.
Thank you so much. We're just looking at the website here. You can see the syllabus. It's basically a 6-month course or a year.
It's a year long. Each course is 6 months. And again, the important thing, it's very much applied. So, people ask me, so how is it different from your class at Harvard, or right now I'm teaching at Columbia? How is it different from the class you teach there? And the difference is that here there is a real opportunity to apply it in your life, apply it in your relationships. You're constantly doing exercises, applying the techniques that you have just learned about, that you've just learned the research behind them, and people report becoming happier throughout the year. And our goal is that trajectory will not end at the end of the year. Again, that it will continue throughout their lives.
And you're offering a free session so that people can get oriented, right? This is nothing different from anybody committing to a 1-year program and paying money. That you're giving them a taste so people can sign up. Steve said he just signed up for the free session, so we hope more people will do as well. May I play this this video so people can get a taste of it?
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see.
Happiness Studies is proud to present the world's first certificate in happiness studies. So given that we are wealthier and freer, live longer and are prettier, why aren't we happier? A year-long adventure that is rigorous and fun, academic, and is for you. Learn more at www.happinessstudies.academy.
Well done. Tal, I want to start by saying I didn't even know there was a .academy domain, so that's a start. So you taught me something there right away, and it shows you also that this is kind of your sizzle reel of your work. Part of it is you've built your brand, right? And some people in the academic world are not fans of building your brand. They say the work should speak for itself. Tell me how you decided that there is value in putting yourself out there, for being, more of someone who is able to connect with the world, not just in the classroom. Talk about that, please.
Yeah, my motivation has always been, maybe it's because I come from, the sciences more, but it has always been creating a bridge between theory and practice. So just remaining in the ivory tower for me didn't feel like it was enough. But interestingly, when I completely left the ivory tower and was doing work and startups and business, I felt like I missed the university. So it's more personal preference. More than anything else, and a strong desire to make a difference.
Thank you. Joe is watching from outside Atlanta. Shalini is watching from DC. Muriel says, thanks, Sree, appreciate what you're doing with these live shows. Hilda says, shalom from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. That was my last trip. I want to ask you, Professor, what was your last trip? My last trip was to FLL, and I went to a interfaith event to do some media training, and I was supposed to then go back the following week for another event in Miami, and I said, no problem, I'll see you next week. I came back, and then everything shut down. So tell me about your last trip.
Yeah, so my last trip was almost to Miami. We were actually preparing. There is the World Happiness Summit takes place every March in Miami, and it's one of my favorite events of the year. And many of my students are there, my teachers. Marty Seligman, the founder of positive psychology, was supposed to be there, and it was canceled the last minute. So there was supposed to be. Unfortunately, didn't happen. No, but I went to just before that. I spent a few days at a school. I do a lot of work with schools. So I spent time at a school in Texas. And had a very meaningful experience with the teachers and students. So I'm glad I got to do that.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I'm always asked is, when do I think we will be back to flying and getting on a plane and going somewhere in a crowded, my parents live in India and my brother lives in Dubai. We're talking 12 to 20 hours to get to.
Yeah.
I'm just worried that the first time I'm inside a plane and somebody coughs, they may be escorted off without a parachute or with a parachute, because people will be so nervous. So I can't even think that far. Where are you at right now?
Yeah, I must say I am optimistic, but it's going to take a while. And I don't know what that new normal is gonna look like. I know that I've gone from having dozens of lectures planned for the next few months to obviously zero. And now, again, I don't think it happened for the best, but trying to make the best of things that happen. So I have many more lectures online. I think it's going to be a while before we go back to business as usual. Maybe the new usual will be different than the previous one.
We'll find out how that goes. Lambert says, just wondering if happiness is not just an illusion. What really is happiness? Yeah.
No, it's a good question, and I think it's an opportunity for me to share a study which is very surprising. Well, not necessarily surprising, but potentially enlightening for people. And that is that on the one hand, we know the benefits of happiness. So we know that if you increase levels of happiness, you become more creative, more innovative. Your relationships improve. You've become physically healthier. Your immune system is actually stronger. If you increase levels of happiness even by a little bit, you become more engaged, more productive. In other words, happiness is great. It's a good investment. It pays in all different currencies. On the other hand, we also know that people who wake up in the morning and say to themselves, I want to be happy, or happiness is an important value for me, I pursue happiness, they actually end up being less happy as a result. So valuing happiness and saying that, I want to be happy now and I'm pursuing happiness actually detracts from our overall well-being. So we're faced with a problem, because on the one hand, we know, or we're told, that happiness is good for us. On the other hand, we know that if we value it or pursue it, then we will become less happy. So what do we do? The answer to this is that we need to pursue happiness indirectly. Pursuing happiness directly leads to unhappiness, but indirectly, the question is, what are the factors that lead to happiness? What are these factors? For example, a sense of meaning and purpose that leads to happiness. For example, expressing gratitude on a regular basis leads to happiness. Physical exercise leads to happiness. Spending time with the loved ones lead to happiness. These are all indirect ways of becoming happier. So if I wake up in the morning, whether it's during the COVID-19 period or any other day, and say, I want to invest in my relationships more, I want to be more physically active, I will express more gratitude, and on. These are the things that will lead me to happiness. So just pursuing happiness, yes, it's an illusion, and it's deceptive. But pursuing those elements that lead to happiness, that is how we increase our levels of well-being, for real.
Wonderful. Thank you. Mark is watching from Durham, North Carolina. Don't forget that Corey Cohen talked about pets and how important they are. And Macron Boot says he's from Manhattan, working online in India on delivering PPEs towards opening economies and solutions. He says, happiness is within us, in my humble opinion, in lockdown. So trying to help is a way to be happy, right? Helping others, I think, is a way of thinking about it. And Joe says, I think people may be going through bad news fatigue. Turn off your newscasts and daily COVID tallies and read a good book and get some exercise. What do you think, Professor?
Yeah, all these things are very valuable in many ways. When you think about happiness, a lot of the things that I talked about, relationships, exercise, gratitude, and so on, common sense. But as the French philosopher Voltaire once said, common sense is not so common, especially when it comes to application. So the key really is to apply it. And people ask me, so how do you apply these things differently during difficult times of uncertainty, what we're experiencing now, essentially? And my answer is that I apply all these things even more, all the basics even more. So relationships are always important. Now it's even more important to connect. And if you can't connect face to face for obvious reasons, then online. Exercise is always important. It's especially important when anxiety levels tend to be higher. Expressing gratitude, always important. Keeping a journal, for most people, important. Even more important during these times. So go back to basics and do more of them. Do them more consistently. Meditation, yoga. I usually do yoga twice a week. Now I'm doing it every day. I just feel like I need it more than during quote unquote normal times.
And we don't know what that normal is. And Jeanette says, love that me search research and his mention of the value of reading biographies with an example of Gandhi. Yes, powerful and uplifting. I just wanted to do a time check, Professor, because we had said we'd go about 45 minutes. We've got so many questions. Can you stay for another 15 minutes or so?
I'm good. Yes, I'm in flow. So.
You don't have a plane to catch, do you?
Yeah, another advantage, much more time.
Right. Let's just remind people what we're doing right now and who we're with. We're just so excited to be here right now with Tal Ben-Shahar, who is our positivity expert, our happiness expert. Please follow him on Twitter. And I just got a nice comment about our new graphics. We went, Professor, from graphics that were much more crowded like this to this. So I'm also learning. We're all learning how to do these things. And so I was pushed by my colleagues to say, you've got to be much tighter, much more clean if you're trying to learn to do these kinds of graphics. I also want to do a shout out to my friend, Steve Taylor, who's watching, who makes these really good graphics. As you can see, for his Philadelphia Parks Alliance Monday meditation with Brendan Everett, look how clean and simple, and look what I was doing, like that. And so I recommend everybody at 9 a.m. Tomorrow, go and watch that. I'm learning. And that's one of the things. I love that one of your students is 93. That's incredible.
Yeah. One of my students is 93. And I just heard of another student who joined the course. She got her PhD when she was 80. She started it when she was 74 and she got it when she was 80. And now she's our student. So it's quite amazing.
What makes some people willing to keep studying and others give up?
First of all, I think we're all by our very nature curious. And when people say to me, "Oh no, I'm not curious," or "My child is not curious," to me it's like saying, "Oh, I'm not, I'm not hungry," or "I don't like eating." Well, you may not like eating, cucumber, but you like oranges. It's the same with curiosity. We may not be curious about one thing, but we will be about something. And the key is to find that thing or those things. That research came out recently showing that people who are curious, who are lifelong learners, actually end up living longer. In other words, curiosity contributes to our longevity. Because it's about being engaged with life. It's about being growing. It's about sending a message to our subconscious saying, I want more of this life.
That's so interesting, and what a great way to look at this. Let's bring in, there's so many comments coming in. Sudha says, happiness is a subjective situation based on the past and present experience, depending on the application of that in your life. Renu says, good job. And Jeanette has invited some friends to watch the COVID call. A dear friend is on the way to the hospital for a family member. She says she saw Tal Ben-Shahar on his interview by Oprah. So that is awesome. I saw you were interviewed by Jon Stewart. So I'm really humbled that you would join our little show here. Thank you so much. Mark says, it seems inhibitions stop our happiness.
Yeah, it's actually true that there are many people put a barrier between them and happiness. Why? Now, I'll give you an example. As I said, everything is right now is just more extreme. So I'll give you an example of a barrier. I spoke to a dear friend of mine who said, he's a little bit older than I am. All his kids are out of the house. It's him and his wife. They're living in a beautiful house. And he said, and he was, we're talking on Zoom, and he was whispering. He said, I'm happy now. And I said, why are you whispering? He said, well, I feel guilty about being happy because, you're not supposed to be happy now. And the point is, it's okay to be happy now. It's okay to be anxious now. It's okay to be happy and then anxious and then happy and anxious again. Everything is okay. As I said, just give, full range of human emotions. Many people, not just during these times, in general, feel guilty about their happiness. And it could be for religious reasons. It could be because there are other people suffering in the world, and how dare I be happy? The point, though, is that I'm not doing anyone a favor when I put a barrier between me and my happiness. In fact, if I increase my levels of well-being, I'm much more likely to contribute to the world. I'm much more likely to have energy to help other people. Happiness is also contagious. So if I increase my levels of well-being, I'm also increasing indirectly other people's levels. At the same time, while we shouldn't feel guilty about feeling happy, we shouldn't also feel guilty or bad or unworthy in any way if we do feel down and sad. All part of the human experience. Bring it on.
Okay, bring it on. I like that. We have lots of great questions coming up. I'm going to read them to you, Professor. But before that, I have a friend of mine who's a dear friend, and he's a fan of yours. So I thought it'd be fun for him to kind of meet you on the screen and ask you a question directly. So
Fantastic.
Welcome, my friend, Stefan Aiknen. Hi, Stefan.
Hi, Sree. Hi.
Dear friend, collaborator. You are a neighbor. And when you heard that Tal was going to be on my show, you said you wanted to just say hi. So I thought,
I mean, I wish I could be next to you. I mean, we live 1 block away, but obviously it'll be for another time. But that's to Tal's point, the beauty of technology. I had a question for you. Actually, I work for Prudential, the financial service and insurance company, and recently, a group of colleagues of mine have launched a ministry of wellness. So especially during these times, and they're really wishing to make sure that all employees and all colleagues are doing the best they can. And so they're very open for ideas. So I'm going to go back to them after we talk. So what would be your advice for groups of employees who try to make lives of their colleagues better?
Yeah. I think I was thinking a lot about, what kind of leadership do we need today? And obviously, we need extraordinary leadership, whether we're talking, nation, state, organization, or department. So how can employees help other employees? How can they lead in these times? And I think the most important thing is listening, being there to listen, because very often, it's like, Sree's example earlier on was about, what do you tell students who are seniors and they can't go to prom? They're not going to have their graduation, the highlight really of their career. And you can't tell them, oh, don't worry about it. Life will be great, even better without it. That wouldn't be authentic. The best thing you can do for them is just, listen and basically mirror their experience. So I think before anything else, be there for them, have an outlet for them to speak and to share. And then encourage them to do all the things that we spoke about earlier, like exercise regularly. Even if you're in your apartment, you can go online and there are great programs that you can do standing in the same place and exerting energy. Keep a journal. If you can't go to a therapist and talk to a therapist or have a therapist online, journaling helps almost as much potentially as a therapy session. As much as possible, spend time with people who will listen and be a sounding board for them. Listen to them too, because then you're helping them. Someone mentioned earlier about the importance of helping others and giving and how that contributes to happiness. It's probably the most powerful impact on our happiness is making other people happier.
I appreciate. It couldn't be more appropriate. Our elder is turning 18 in 6 days, and he's a senior, and this decision is coming before the end of the month. And to your point, they still don't know about commencement, graduation ceremony, prom, etc. So it's just spot on. Thank you very much.
Can I just ask a cultural question? Stefan, as you could probably hear from his accent, is French. And do you see different kinds of happiness levels generally in different countries, different cultures. Can you talk a little bit about that? And we'll talk about the French without Stefan there. But I know that one of the things I'm missing dearly is that Stefan knows that I was supposed to be in Paris in April. We're going to go there and just have a great time. And, there are certain countries and cities in the world that just make you feel happy because you're visiting as a tourist. When you live there, it may be a little different, but those feelings, how are they in different countries? And we'll let Stefan go. Thank you very much, Stefan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Yeah, so there are cultural differences. For example, in terms of expressing happiness or expressing emotions in general, there are places where there is more focus on the group and versus the individual. Just today, I'm writing curriculum right now. So I was writing about the concept of Ubuntu, which is an idea that comes from primarily Southern Africa, and it's about I am because you are. It's about the ability to experience what I experience through other people. And again, this is much more of an African concept than a North American concept. Having said that, there is much more similarity between cultures than there are differences. The Dalai Lama once was participating in a conference. It was actually held in India, and there were scientists from the US and from Europe and from India and from Tibet and from literally all over the world, every continent. And at some point he said, I feel like we're missing the point because we're talking too much about cultural differences and not enough about universal similarities. And when it comes to happiness, there are so many universal similarities, such as the need for relationships, such as, we're physical beings, such as the importance of being appreciated and appreciating. These are all universals, and they're important in Johannesburg, Nairobi, New York, and Beijing.
Great to know that. Let's look at some of the comments, Professor, that have come in. People from all over the world. Amber says she just signed up for the free session. Thank you. Just learning about your class has given me happiness. How nice is that? Geeta says, I feel that happiness is something in me and the choices I make to myself to make myself happy. Jeanette just retweeted some of the Rose Horowitz tweets. That's great. My mother is watching from Trivandrum in Kerala. I don't know. Have you been to India, Professor? Have you been?
I've been to India many times, and in fact, I was working there. And when my wife and I got married, our honeymoon was in India. So yes, we've been there many times. One of our favorite places in the world.
Very nice to hear. We're delighted. My parents are in Kerala, and Renee says it seems that being happy is hard work.
It's like saying, it's being good at anything or improving at anything, whether you're playing the piano or playing tennis. To improve, you need to put in the work, but that doesn't mean that the work isn't fun and enjoyable. If it's something that you're passionate about, and most of us are passionate about our own well-being, it's not just the outcome that we enjoy, it's also the journey, the process.
Thank you. And Renee said, I like what you said, meaning and purpose, gratitude, exercise. Are close relationships a key part of happiness?
Good. Yeah, so there's a great study, probably the most extensive study ever run in psychology, was conducted over a period of 75 years. Some of you may have heard of it, at Harvard, where they looked at Harvard students and they followed them for 75 years, so most of them for the rest of their lives, as well as community members, and they followed them for those 75 years. And they collected, as you can imagine, over 75 years, millions and millions of data points. And then they asked, okay, now with all this data, what is the best predictor of happiness? They asked. And the answer was relationships. Interestingly, it didn't matter what kind of relationships, meaning for some people it was relationships with their partner. For others, it was work relationships that were, good and supportive. For others, it was their best friends or extended family. It didn't matter. But the happiest people, what best predicted happiness was relationships. A second question that they asked was, what is the best predictor of physical health? Again, not what is the only predictor, what is the best predictor? And the answer was, again, relationships. And the interesting thing about it is that, yes, physical exercise mattered for health, and nutrition, of course, matters for health. But more than anything, what accounts for most of the variance when it comes to physical health, relationships. So the answer is absolutely.
Right.
And one of the benefits that I hope will come out of this situation is it will become more appreciative of our relationships, and not just appreciative theoretically, but that we will apply this appreciation and really spend more time with our loved ones.
I think that's a very important thing that you're talking about. I try to call a mentor every day and say thank you, because I lost a mentor who I meant to call and I didn't, and that'll always be with me. Let's just look at some of your books, Professor. You've written several. Shortcuts to Happiness, Life-Changing Lessons from My Barber. And we'll ask you for one of those lessons. The Joy of Leadership, How Positive Psychology Can Maximize Your Impact. Choose the Life You Want, 101 Ways to Create Your Own Road to Happiness. Being Happy, Happier, Even Happier. Wow, I'm tired just reading these titles. You had enough time to write them and do so well with them. So talk about those books. And what did your barber teach you?
My barber taught me many things. I mean, the first thing that he taught me is that there is a great deal of wisdom all around us. And apropos listening, if we listen, then we can learn. We can learn a lot. My barber taught me many lessons. One of the lessons that he taught me was the importance of giving. My mother tongue is Hebrew. And which is the language of the Bible. And my favorite word in Hebrew, which is also a biblical word, is the word to give. And the word to give in Hebrew is natan. Natan. So if you'd spell it with the Roman letters, it would be N-A-T-A-N, Natan. And if you look at that word, it's unusual in that it's a palindrome. In other words, it's symmetrical. Natan, Natan. You read it left to right or right to left, and that's not a coincidence. There's a lot of wisdom in those ancient languages, and this is one of the wisdom ideas that my barber highlighted for me. And of course, he didn't know about the research that Sonia Lyubomirsky, who's at UC Riverside, conducted, showing how we benefit so much when we're kind, when we're generous, when we give others. And by the way, giving can be kindness. It doesn't have to be just material giving. We can also give a smile, an ear. Listening to people is giving, and our happiness. We benefit a great deal when we do so.
Thank you. Let's get some more quick questions in here. Let's see, I'm just reading through. There are so many here. Yeah. Do you know Laughter Liberator? She's in North Carolina, is a happiness proponent. Do you know a lot of, you said the World Happiness Summit, right? So there must be a club of sorts of folks like you. There's also Laurie Santos and the work she does at Yale. Can you compare what you do with what she does?
Yeah, a lot of what we do is similar. In fact, Laurie and I were students, graduate students together at Harvard. So I've known her for many years, and there's a lot of overlap in terms of what we teach. None of us has found the secret to happiness. I don't think that actually exists. But our focus really is on application. Whether you're studying at Yale or studying at at any other university in the world, and at any age, again, whether you're 7 or 97, it's about applying these ideas. And this is what the real focus of this field is. It's not the, it's no rocket science. But what is difficult, what is challenging is applying it on a regular basis, consistently.
Thank you. Having a strong inner life and relationship of trust with yourself creates a strong foundation for happiness to happen organically. Arlene says, how can I best support a colleague who is home drinking heavily, doesn't leave the house, is crying on the phone, and is distracted and out of focus?
Yeah, it's in general, it's very hard to help others. But here are a few suggestions. So the first one is really lead by example. And when I say lead by example, it's not going to your friend and saying, oh, look, I'm doing great and it's amazing and my life rocks. That's not helpful. It's first and foremost being empathic. Listening is the most important element here. And then it's about sharing stories, whether it's stories through research or personal stories or other people's stories. People connect to stories much more so than to data. The data is important to make sure that you're telling the right stories, but ultimately stories are the ones that move people. So share stories with them, and here is the final thing: help them make small changes over time. There's a lot of research, and that's one of the things that we talk about a lot throughout our program. If you go through a program, and it could be a program to improve your nutrition, or to exercise more, or to do certain, or to keep a journal on a regular basis. If you go through it by yourself, the likelihood that you'll actually persist subsequently is somewhere, even if it's a very good program, it's somewhere around 1 in 4, so 25% or so. If you have an accountability buddy, if you do it with someone else, then the likelihood is 3 in 4, so just over 75%. So how can you be an accountability buddy? How can you help that friend bring about small changes in their life? And then call them up regularly, talk to them regularly, and make sure that they're doing it. Do it with them, even better. And again, if you could do it face to face, it would be ideal, but you want to make the best of things with technology today.
Thank you. This is such an important conversation. Chitachi says, good evening, all. Jeanette says, you mentioned Martin Seligman at UPenn. Who are your role models in life, business, and psychology?
So Marty Seligman is certainly one of them. He's the founder of the field that I care about so much. My role model, my teacher, who actually introduced me to the field of positive psychology, was Professor Philip Stone. And Professor Philip Stone, I'll just give you a quick anecdote about him to give you a sense of who he was. We went to the first positive psychology conference that was held in Lincoln, Nebraska, 1999. And we were there in lunch break, and I was in my room, and he knocks on the door, and he comes in and says, Tal, do you want to go for a walk? And I said, walk where? And he said, just walk. And that was an important lesson for me. And, it's already become, in my family, we talk about, just walk. In other words, just be. Doesn't all have to be about doing and getting places and reaching far. And I hope, again, one of the lessons that more and more people will learn during this period is to appreciate just walking. That's Philip Stone. Oh, I miss him very much. He passed away a few years ago.
And very young, 69, right? Very, very young. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for sharing him with us. I know a lot of people will now go in and look at this story and read about him. It says, Professor of Psychology Philip J. Stone, pioneer in the field of positive psychology, who also revolutionized the use of computers in the social sciences, died in his Cambridge apartment, January 31st, 2006. He was just 69 years old, and very, very sad. Joe says, 2 weeks back, Harlan Coben discussed not beating yourself up if you're not hyper-productive. It's difficult just relaxing. Help, Professor, as I feel guilty not overachieving during this time. Everyone is baking, everyone is giving lectures, everyone is playing the guitar, taking classes. talk to those people who feel,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is too much?
You know, not just during these times, but in general, when we go on social media, it seems like everyone is having an amazing time. In fact, perfect time. Everyone except for me. And that doesn't help. And the thing is, we don't want to seem like the only ones who are having issues. So we also post these kind of celebrations constantly. And what we do is we contribute to the great deception. And that great deception actually leads to a great depression. It makes us very unhappy. And I think one of the things that we want, I know that one of the things that we want to feel is not that other people are suffering. I'm not about, Schadenfreude, celebrating the misery, the misfortune of others. But what we do want to know is that we're not alone. And yes, there are people who are putting up, all their bakings and the exercises that they're doing, and their life, it seems, amazing, and they're experiencing a second honeymoon with their partner. Not everyone, in fact, most people are also experiencing, maybe with the baking, they're also experiencing fear and sadness and anger and frustration, and these things will only grow with time. And the best thing we can do is, one, to realize we're not alone, and B, to fully experience these emotions, not to reject them. When I reject anxiety, the anxiety intensifies. When I reject guilt, the guilt intensifies. When I reject anxiety over feeling anxiety, it intensifies even more. So just allow these emotions to flow through you. They're all part of being human. Imagine if you didn't accept the law of gravity and you rejected it, that would be futile, and you'd get yourself into trouble, especially if you live high up. Same with painful emotions. Rejecting them is futile, and it just gets us into more trouble.
Thank you. There's a question from a future guest on Friday coming up. We're doing a fantastic session on love, relationships, dating during COVID-19. And Elizabeth Bernstein is going to be our guest. We're just so excited. She's just written an article in the Wall Street Journal about this. So she's going to join us on Friday with with another guest who's an expert on relationships. So we will talk about that. So she asks a question of you, Professor. Would you please speak to journaling and how to do it in a way that promotes happiness?
Good, yeah. So let me take you back to 1997. This is when one of the seminal books came out by Jamie Pennybaker. The book is called Opening Up. Jamie Pennybaker is a professor at University of Texas. And what he did, his protocol was very simple. The first study, the seminal study, he invited people in and asked them for 20 minutes to write about their most difficult, traumatic experiences that they had. For 20 minutes to write. No one is going to see it, so you can really open up. Don't worry about grammar, just write. And by the way, it doesn't matter if you write or you type, whatever works for you. 20 minutes, whatever comes to mind about your emotions, about your thoughts, about what you experienced when this experience happened, what you're experiencing right now as you write it. Do it for 20 minutes. Following day, 20 more minutes, either about the same experience or something else, a traumatic or difficult experience. Third day, same thing. Fourth day, 4 days, 20 minutes each day. As a result of those 80 minutes, initially anxiety levels went up because maybe something that was, hidden, repressed, suppressed, suddenly you brought up to light. Initially, anxiety levels went up very quickly. Within a few days, anxiety levels went down, levels lower than they were initially, and it maintained those levels, lower levels of anxiety, for a whole year. Immune system strengthened for the whole year as a result of those 80 minutes. The individuals who wrote it actually, speaking of relationships, became more social and open to other people as a result of this experience. His student, Laura King, did research showing that writing about your best experiences, your peak experiences, in the words of Abraham Maslow, also contributes to overall well-being. So keeping a journal and writing about strong emotions, whether it's painful emotions, pleasurable emotions, contributes significantly to our well-being.
Thank you. Let's just see if we can show you the article that Elizabeth just published today, a few hours ago, the Wall Street Journal. Sex in the time of coronavirus. Stress and fear are taking a toll on intimacy, but practicing mindful sex can help you better connect with your partner. Here's how is this article. So I think a lot of people will be seeing it, and it'll be in print tomorrow in the Wall Street Journal. And I'm sure there'll be lots of questions about that when the article comes out, and we'll talk about it on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. I know we only have a few minutes left, just very quickly to go through these, and maybe you can just, we'll collect a few of the questions, and then you can give us some kind of final thoughts. Willie says to that friend of Arlene's, tell him or her she's loved and respected, but he or she has to take the power to take the step. President Trump said suicide rates will be sky high. Is that true?
I don't know. I don't know. It could go, both ways. It's like relationships. Some relationships will get stronger, some will get weaker. Some people will find more of a sense of meaning as a result of it. Again, once it's over, and others won't. And this goes to a very important concept within psychology. So many people, if I ask your audience and we had a poll, how many of you have heard of PTSD? I bet you that many people have post-traumatic stress disorder. But what if I ask, how many of you have heard of PTG? Very few people. Even when I ask psychologists, very few psychologists know about PTG. Well, PTG is post-traumatic growth. PTG is as likely as PTSD. In other words, we're as likely to grow as a result of trauma as we are to go down in a spiral as a result of a trauma. And the thing is that we have some control. One of the viewers talked about the choices that we have. Again, we don't have a choice about the situation happening. It happens, so much is out of our control. But we do have control whether we accept or reject our emotions. We do have control over whether we keep a journal or not keep a journal. We have control over whether we mindfully engage, whether with our loved one in bed or with our friends on Zoom. Are we really present and mindful? Do we meditate or do we do our yoga? These are all choices that we have. And connecting to other people, connecting to ourselves significantly increases the likelihood that we'll experience PTG rather than PTSD.
That's incredible. I've never heard that term before, and we are so many of us experiencing trauma, so it'll be fascinating to see if we can learn from that. Very quickly, again, I love being happy and joyful, but a lot of time people steal your joy. How do you personally deal with joy stealers?
Many books, self-help books, as well as academic research was done on, on the fact that happiness is contagious. So if you're around people who are unhappy, then your happiness is likely to go down. Well, I think there is something which is more important than happiness, and that is authenticity. I don't expect everyone that I'm around to be happy all the time, and I certainly hope that they don't expect that I'm happy all the time. 2 days ago when I was really feeling down, I told my kids, I'm having a hard day, and it's important for them to know that there are hard days. So I think that the main joy stealer, as you put it, and you should trademark that phrase. I haven't heard it before. Is people who are not authentic, and I think when we're authentic, then we bring out authenticity in others. Not perfectly, but we're likely to bring out authenticity in others. So that's what I would go for more than anything else now.
A couple of quick comments on journaling. Willie Henderson's watching from Pakistan, and he says, keeping a journal. I tell my students to do this. I must try it myself. I find a sense of humor is necessary. Geeta says I must try keeping a journal. And we have so many other comments coming in here. How to cope now? Here's Tal Ben-Shahar. She's tweeting you. My mother says she was happy you went to India. And Mark says barbers are great happiness proponents. And Linda says joining late, but glad to join this topic. That's great. Geeta says, I see that there are many similarities across geographies. The core values remain the same. Happiness and positivity is in us, she says. And Stefan writes back to say you can also mention Arnaud Collery, that Tal probably knows. He's now based in Bordeaux, another place of happiness, so another happiness expert. And luckily and thankfully, Sree and team always post a recording. Very helpful talk. Thank you. Come on, get happy. Remember that Judy Garland song? Eliza Cooper says, this is opening my mind, even late on a Sunday. Thank you both. Eliza is a dear friend of mine. I've not connected with her in a couple of years. Eliza, God bless you. I want to talk to you. I want you on my show because you are an upbeat, positive person. Thank you very much. And Steve saying hello, and he says hello to his mom who's watching. So this is just a great global conversation. And we've now connected people who are near each other, which is great as well. And here's Steve's mother, Eileen, and him talking to his mom. We love that, that they're connecting. And so many people here. Last question for you, because we got to let you go. The question here is, what do you do if you're having a hard day, Professor?
Yeah. You know, when ever since the book The Secret came out, which was, 15 years ago, people have been asking me, so Tal, what is your secret to happiness? And my response to that is, come on, I don't have a secret to happiness. There is no secret to happiness. There are 3 secrets to happiness. And the 3 secrets are: first, reality. Second, reality. You want to guess the 3rd secret to happiness?
Reality.
And you know, you're having a hard day. It's a hard day. Just face it. Don't try and make it go away. Just accept it. And then ask, you know, what would serve me best? What would serve others best? Because very often when we go outside of ourselves, we do feel better. But the first step is acceptance. The second step is, what can I do to make myself and to make others feel better? And if it works, great. If it doesn't, that's okay. The day can continue to be hard. What matters more than what you feel is what you do.
I love that. It's great point to end on. Folks, our guest has been Tal Ben-Shahar, who, as you've seen in the screen, has been interviewed by Oprah and by Jon Stewart and so many great people. I saw my friend Joey Chen also interviewed you. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for spending your Sunday night. I'm just showing everybody your website, and off that, there's a link directly to this course that you're teaching. It starts in June, and people can take a free session right now if they go there, and they can learn what it's about. It's a year-long course, and I presume you're distilling some of the wisdom in all your books, plus new research, and it trains you in being a happiness coach and consultant, and that, I think, is fantastic. We need more happiness. Folks, please follow Tal on Twitter. He's Tal Ben-Shahar on Twitter, and we are looking forward to keeping in touch. We're just so grateful. Any final words of wisdom before you leave?
A lot of gratitude to you for doing this, for everyone for engaging and participating. You know, as I mentioned earlier, perhaps the most important thing for us to experience during these times is that we're not alone. And I certainly didn't feel alone the past hour or so. Thank you for that.
More than an hour, it turned out. So thank you. Look, you're getting thanks from Pakistan and the Upper West Side and Upper Manhattan. And Steve says, thank you so much for making Sunday evening so special. Professor, we're going to say goodbye to you. I'm going to do my regular goodbyes and looking at some stats and things like that. But thank you very much. Please follow him on Twitter at Tal Ben-Shahar. We're very grateful to our friend Marco Greenberg for connecting us. And that's so important, these connections, these networks. Even though we're physically distant, we can be socially close. Thank you very much, Professor. Good night. Namaste. I like that. He gave me a namaste at the end. Please do follow him. He is awesome. And I'm so grateful to all of you for staying. I'm just going to talk a little bit, as I usually do, to you, to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for your time and interest and support. I want to just quickly look at the latest curve. You know, we keep hearing that word, bending the curve. So let's look at how we're doing across the world. These are from the FT. You know how important these numbers are. From John Byrne Murdoch at J Byrne Murdoch. And you're looking right now at these numbers. you can see that he is looking at the curves. Look at South Korea, look at Australia in the middle of the worst time that they had with the fires comes coronavirus, and look what they've done to those numbers. Look at South Korea and the United States had the same number the same day when the first case was found and confirmed in both countries. Look at where South Korea is, look at where the United States is on the top there. The China number, there are lots of disagreements about where it is and how it works and all of that. But also look at Brazil. There are 100,000 cases now in Latin America. The president of Brazil, Bolsonaro, fired his truth-speaking health minister because he didn't like that he was speaking the truth, and Brazil is already in deep trouble. So we are hopeful. We want the countries around the world to come back from this, bounce back from this, but it shows you we have a long way to go. And I'm very, very concerned about America being opened up ahead of time. India is doing really well. Of course, they have had lots of cases, but nothing like you might imagine in a health disaster that sometimes awaits countries like India. But they've done very good work, and especially in my parents' home state of Kerala. Everything from contact tracing to fresh food has made a big, big difference there. So I hope you are keeping an eye on such data points as the FT. And the FT, the New York Times, and others are giving away their corona coverage. So Washington Post, New York Times, FT, so many other publications are giving away access. Please do tune in and follow all the great newspapers and support local journalism, folks. You can subscribe to your local newspaper, of course, the big newspapers, but your local newspaper needs your help wherever they are in the world. And we know now how important accurate information is. Since it's Sunday night, I also wanted to tell you that I have made friends with something that I've not had to even touch in about 5, 6, 7 years, maybe longer, and that's my hairbrush. I now am using it to brush my hair back because even though I am follically failed, not challenged, I still have too much hair here and not enough hair here, so I'm brushing my hair. I want to do a show about what have you learned during this crisis. People have learned new things, and I want to hear about that. I want to thank our amazing sponsor, and we have more sponsors coming up, but I want to thank our sponsors, the Girl Scouts of Greater New York, and they are running an ad not paid for by them, but by a third party. Go to bit.ly/gscookies1, bit.ly/gscookies1, and you can help us donate 100,000 boxes of cookies to healthcare workers. Donate today. You're supporting the Girl Scouts, you're supporting the healthcare workers, and you're supporting this little show. The money was paid by an anonymous third-party donor. Maybe you have an ad that you want to post. Maybe it's not for you, but maybe there's a nonprofit you'd like to support. Maybe you'd like to give out a birthday shout out. Maybe you want to plan a Zoom call. Whatever it is, we can do an ad. Look how inexpensive these rates are. We'd love to get more support for this show, and we'd love your help. You can see this. Please take a screenshot of this. Please save this. And one of my friends just texted that he loved the bit about my hairbrush. Thank you very much. I want to remind you about our guest. One of the things you have to do on these online shows that they don't have to do in regular television, they just say goodbye. I always reintroduce the guest. Why? Because when people are watching, they are coming right in the middle. They don't know what exactly they're watching, and you reintroduce the guest so that they are tempted to stay and watch the replay, which will start right away. So always try to reshare as often as you can who your guest is. Leave the chyrons up on the screen with their name. Even during the great Global Citizen concert of many, many hours they had yesterday, the names are flashing on and off. And some of these people are world famous, and some of these people are famous in certain geographies. And so you want to know who that speaker is, who that musician is. And for old geezers like me, the new young hot stars, I don't know them. So one of the tips is if you're running television, keep those banners up more so that people know what you're looking at and what you're doing. You also heard me say that I learned a little bit. I'm working on my graphic design work and work using the Canva app and my YouTube channel. And so you see, I went from this to this, because this is what works on YouTube. Nice, big, bright letters. And our guest was Tal Ben-Shahar, incredible speaker, incredible teacher, author. He is a happiness guru, but a serious person who I learned so much from today. Please do follow him. And this is the start of a wonderful week of shows. I want to tell you all about them, but very quickly, tomorrow is our show, what we call, we're starting a series, Work on Something, because this is a great time to launch, relaunch, or improve your digital efforts. This episode coming up tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. It's a good time to up or start your Twitter game. You will learn how to listen smarter and how to post better. All levels welcome. Our guests are Marcy Alberher at Hey Marcy. She's a former New York Times careers columnist, and she's the VP of Narrative Change for eEncore.org, a national nonprofit bridging generational divides. And Susan McPherson will be with us at Susan MCP1, founder and CEO of McPherson Strategies and host of a brand new show, The McPherson Memo, interviewing leaders in profit and nonprofit organizations. Our producers, as always, are Rose Horowitz and Vandana Menon. So that's on Monday. Tuesday, we have a wonderful show, another by popular demand, Ask the Doctors, because we get so many questions about medical questions that I obviously can't answer. So we're going to have 2 doctors on the show at least. So please come back for that. And then we have on Wednesday, the former U.S. ambassador to India, Richard Verma, will be with us. He is Indian American, posted to India from America, and I interviewed him first time in Roosevelt House in New Delhi at the home of the Indian ambassador. He gave us a private tour on Facebook Live. It was an amazing day. It was 4 years ago. Of course, when the administration changed, he came back here, and he's going to talk about some of the interesting things, and he's also going to talk about what's happening globally. Amazing. Richard Verma, you absolutely have to come for that. That's on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we have folks from the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent talking about how they are doing social and digital at the Red Cross. So please tune in for that. Friday, Elizabeth Bernstein and Justin Garcia will be here from the Kinsey Institute, and Elizabeth from the Wall Street Journal. We're going to be talking about her article about love and dating and relationships and sex in the age of COVID-19. So please join us for that. And then on Saturday, we're so excited. Adam Green will be with us. Adam is a theater critic for Vogue, and he's going to put together a panel of great people who will talk about what's happening in the theater. And then it'll be Sunday night, Positivity Night. I've been doing this for 38 straight days, folks. I want to keep going until we're off this lockdown in New York, or until I get it. I keep saying that and people get upset when I say that, but you've got to laugh, otherwise you will cry. How can you keep up with my shows? How can you see the archives? Very easy. Just go to YouTube. Sreenet is my YouTube account. Please just follow me there. That's the best way to keep up with my all my online shenanigans, and we'd love to have you join us there, youtube.com/Sreenet. And the other way to do it is look at this. Right on the screen is my my WhatsApp alert, group alert. So this is not asking you to join a group on WhatsApp. Just take your phone, if you have WhatsApp, and just point your camera on iPhone directly at the QR code. And if you're on Android, you need to use your QR code reader or the Google Lens app or the Google app in order to get that. That way, just ask to get an alert, and I will just text you. There's no other noise in that. It's not a WhatsApp group run by your parents or your grandparents or your aunts and uncles. So please join us there, or join us on my YouTube channel. We'd love to grow with you, learn with you. Thank you so much for being here. Let me look at any last questions or comments. Liz says, this is very informative. Lisa says, hi, Lisa, thank you. Jonathan says, great show, happy I caught it. Jonathan's watched all 38 episodes, which is incredible. Sudha says, thank you for bringing in Tal. Great job. You work very hard. You're happy and making others happy. Thank you. I'm not always happy, but I am happy when I'm talking to all of you. This is so meaningful to me. Thank you. Thank you. And Steve says, we already talked about what he said. Rose says, Tal Ben-Shahar is an inspiration, wise, warm, and practical advice. Thank you so much. Geeta says, gratitude to Sree and Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar. Linda says, thank you. Good night. Jeanette says, thanks to Sree Sreenivasan, Tal Ben-Shahar, Steve Taylor, and Rose Horowitz. Really warm and engaging show. Carla says, thank you for your perspective. I wish Tal could hear all these comments because they're so great. Christine says, this course is a great opportunity. Absolutely. Sign up for that, folks. It's a year-long course. There's a $600 discount and a chance to learn, improve yourself, always be learning. We talk about that. Sudha says, thank you for bringing in Tal. I read that comment already. I'm already going, we need a show about how to cut your own hair, right? I think that would be fun. And Jonathan says, I've rediscovered gloves, stairs, and the microwave. And Steve says, I'm so proud of how you've developed your graphic design skills, Sree. Thank you. I'm learning from everybody. This shows a ray of hope in the times of COVID. Thank you, Manoj. You don't understand how wonderful that is. And Amber says, thank you, Sree, sending love. That's a great point to end on. I'm so grateful to everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying. I'm so grateful. Please email me, sree@sree.net, sree@sree.net. I'm looking for speakers, looking for themes, looking for guests, looking for sponsors, looking for ideas and collaboration. Why am I doing this just on my platform? Let me do it on your platform. Let me take your in-person conference, make it online. Let's blow it up, make it big. We have a team that can do that with you, for you. We're working with an Ivy League school on a 3-day conference. We're doing a wonderful memorial conference to celebrate and mark the Holocaust Memorial Day that's coming up this week. So on Monday, we're doing that. There's so much going on, and we're grateful for everyone who has been there with us for this journey. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for being here. God bless. We'll see you soon, and good luck with everyone. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.